Why was this place created? What's the intent? And maybe give us a little bit of a theology of hell itself and why it was made to begin with.
So Deuteronomy 32:22 is where the first mention of hell is mentioned. But if you start off from the very beginning, what you find, and we could read verses 4-6, it says, he is the rock, his work is perfect, for all his ways are judgment. So automatically, we're starting to understand the context of this passage that uses the word hell is beginning with a notion of judgment and that God is judge.
Yeah.
A God of truth and without iniquity, just and right is he. So he judges righteously. They have corrupted themselves. Now this is interesting. Their spot is not the spot of his children. The ones who go to this place, they don't look like his kids. These are not his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do ye thus requite the Lord, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that hath bought thee? Hath not he made thee and established thee? And so the very first thing that you see in this passage is that hell is a place of judgment. That's the first thing. I think the second thing, if we were to read through it, and we're not going to read the whole chapter, but verse 5 also shows you that hell is for a corrupted creation.
Right.
We could go to Matthew 25:41 that says that hell was only, prepared for the devil and his angels. And we could say that what was the purpose of hell? Well, it was only for the devil and the fallen angels.
It was its original intent.
That was its original intent.
Before the fall.
And yet now, because God is just and right, and because he has to judge wickedness as a righteous judge, and he will, hell is a place of judgment. Hell is now also a place for a corrupted creation, which we see in verse 5. If we were to continue on verse 19, we see that hell is connected with separation. I mean, it's a fantastic reference in the Bible. I mean, God is clearly telling us everything that we need to know, and obviously he gives us more in Deuteronomy 32. So you have judgment, a corrupted creation. Verse 19, there's separation from God. Hell is separation. So it says, and when the Lord saw it, he abhorred them. So when he saw their rebellion, their rejection of him, he abhorred them because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be, for they are a very froward generation, children in whom is no faith. So
it tells us a lot.
So who's hell for? Oh, children of no faith.
Yeah.
People that never place their faith in God.
Yeah. And what's the consequence? Well, we know it's two things. It's God's not there. They can't see his face, right? Which that would be a very fine definition for hell, is the place where God's not, right?
And I think some people want to stop there. Again, this is trying to take the severity out of hell. Well, hell is a state of mind, when in reality from Luke 16, we know that the rich man was not just in a state of mind. Every part of his being, that's the thing about hell, emotionally, spiritually, physically, every part of his being was enduring the judgment of God.
Yeah, right.
So there's not a compartmentalization of hell is separation from God. It is that, but it's not only that.
Right.
And that's where at times people want to take away the judgment
of
God.
They want to diminish the torment.
Because it's horrible.
It is horrible. Yeah.
Which should rather infuse our evangelism. Instead of becoming more of a publisher of the gospel, we want to lessen the severity of his judgment.
When we diminish the need for repentance. And then
Absolutely.
Then that's the slippery slope towards universalism that people fear, I suppose.
Well, and speaking of universalism, the last part of Deuteronomy 32, 36, 39, basically says that no one can deliver you out of my hand. Hell is inescapable. So no, there's not a temporary hell. There's not a purgatory. Hell is an inescapable place.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got hell. 2 Thessalonians 1:8 talks about it being a place of punishment, everlasting destruction from the presence of the Lord, which is what we just talked about. Now, there's also a final judgment, and I just want to hit this briefly because I think it's important to our understanding overall. There's a final judgment in Revelation chapter 20, verse 15, and it says, and whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. And so there's another place within the construct of the earth referred to as the lake of fire. And at the great white throne judgment, at the end of the millennial reign, all those that were in hell previously and stand in judgment before God will be cast ultimately into the lake of fire. And so I think it's important for us to understand at least that there are successive proceedings here. Just like what we're going to talk about in terms of leading captivity captive, there was another ultimate place for the saints of old. There is also another ultimate place, a final destination, if you will, for those who have not repented.
So you have Revelation 19, verse 20. It deals with Satan being cast into, it says, a lake of fire, not the lake of fire. Maybe people listening can study that out more. And that's at the beginning of the millennial reign. And then Revelation 20, like you were saying, has this millennial reign context. At the end, Satan is loosed from that pit for a season. There's a proving of the nations. At the end of that, man, Christ just kicks tail pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Takes care of business.
Yeah.
And then, yes, there's a judgment, white throne judgment. And then following that, hell is cast into the lake of fire. Interesting thing is the lake of fire is spoken of after there is a new heaven and a new earth. So where is the locale of hell? Now, there's so many passages in the Bible that speak of hell being in the earth, at the center of the earth. Following the new heaven and new earth, as hell is brought up and cast into the lake of fire, where is that location? Probably smarter people than me know that answer, but it's an interesting
It's an interesting study, knowing that at the end of the millennial reign, at the point that we are in the third heaven and living and dwelling with God in a new heaven, new earth, everything melts with a fervent heat, right? So like whatever the matter left of the universe, earth certainly will be done away with, which is why I think it's interesting that hell is cast into a lake of fire. In other words, it's being moved. And so how that looks is up for some debate.